The Cardinals and the Brewers are set to do battle for the first time this year. Why has one franchise flourished recently while the other one has plummeted? This is a Locked On Cardinals, Locked On Brewers crossover.
You are Locked On MLB crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, baseball fans. I am JD Hafron, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals. Joining me today, Chuck Freimund, host of Locked On Brewers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. We want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Both of us are available on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment and interact with us. Hit the notification button so you don't miss out on any of our posts. Time to talk some ball about what's going to go on this weekend. Busy time in the Wisconsin area, Chuck, with the NFL draft taking place in Green Bay. And we're also coming to the end of the first month of the MLB season. And both the Brewers and Cardinals are, I think, where most people expected them to be. The Brewers are sitting right at 500 in second place in the Central, 3 behind the Cubs, who have had a tremendous start to the season, considering who they've been playing. A lot of good teams. While the Cardinals are below 500. They're sitting near the bottom at 10-16 with the Pirates. The Brewers and Cardinals have been very competitive with each other over the years since Milwaukee came to the National League. But the last couple seasons, we've seen the Brewers continue to ascend and win the NL Central, while the Cardinals have a record below 500 the last few seasons combined. We're going to start with your Brewers, Chuck. They continue to move on from big names. Corbin Burns, Josh Hader, Willie Adames, who was a thorn in the side today. Devin Williams, their manager, jumped ship and went to the Cubs. But yet the Brewers maintain their level of play. And although they haven't seen the success in the postseason that you guys had hoped, at least they are winning during the regular season. And they're getting to the postseason each year without breaking the bank on high-priced free agents. So what do you, Chuck Freimund, have to say about the Brewers and how they continue to succeed?
JD, first of all, it's great doing a crossover with you as always. And when you,
good to see you, buddy. Go Pack Go, by the way. Took a wide receiver.
Am I allowed to say that you're a Packer fan? I don't know if you disclose that to your fans.
They all know I'm a Packers fan. I will not have it. I'm an owner, for Christ's sakes. Look at this.
Let me see that.
We are an owner.
You are a confirmed Packer fan right there, my friend.
Yes.
You know, when you started off this podcast and you said, why has one team plummeted while another team has flourished? Well, 10 years ago, the roles were reversed on this.
Right.
We were talking about the Cardinals and the Brewers, one hit wonder and back to being mediocre again. And the Brewers are 13-13. They have flourished. Even though this past week it has been a struggle. After the game today, they had a closed-door meeting. They just dropped 3-4 in San Francisco. And up until this series, they had bounced back from an 0-4 start and been playing pretty well. We're knocking on the door of the Chicago Cubs, who incidentally we both got to worry about. They're 16-10. But the Brewers have been overachievers. That's what they've been the last couple of years, overachievers, and doing all the things and not making errors and getting timely pitching and hitting and all that. This series was not that. Walks, bad defense, bad base running. So many different things have worked against them. So right now, I'm hoping it's not going in the wrong direction. They're at the 500 mark, but they continue this 10-game road trip Friday night in St. Louis. So looking forward. It doesn't always seem like we play each other like the first or second or third series of the year. It's like shouldn't we already have a series in against each other already at this point?
I mean, the Cardinals have barely played people in the National League. Like, it's been so many American League teams so far this year for us. And as long as we're at home, it's been okay. When we're on the road, it has not been good so far this year. But I want to get back to to what it is that the Brewers have done right when it comes to moving on from these big guys. When we brought up those names that they've said goodbye to, again, Willie Adames, who's now with the Giants, and all these other names, and yet you maintain a level of competitiveness It's never at like an elite level, I wouldn't say. And you're saying they're overachievers. So it makes me think you're not expecting them to be good each year, and they keep surprising you. Am I right?
You're exactly right on that. The jury's still out on whether they've replaced Willie Adames. Now,
Yeah.
pitching wise, they've been one of the best starting rotations, pitching rotations in the league right now. ERA with the starters, one of the best in the league going into the series against San Francisco. But the Brewers just have called the prospects. They get it. They get the job done. I've always said this with this team. The margin of error is very small, and because of that, they have to do all the little things correctly, which they had been doing up until this past week. Now, you're probably catching the Brewers at a good time right now. The closed-door meeting that Pat Murphy had with these guys was, guys, we got to get back to doing what the things we did. We're the underdog. We go out there and make the plays and not make mental errors and make all the defensive plays. And that's what they have been able to do, JD, to cover up for all these losses by playing sound fundamental baseball, which you guys are well familiar with from your history.
Yeah.
Brewers had been doing that. It's not like they replaced these key players with another player or, next man up mentality. They've just done a lot of things right. And a little help from the old baseball gods have been on their side the last couple of years.
It never hurts. It never hurts. They don't say baseball gods for the Cardinals' success over the years. They call it devil magic is the words that they use for ours. So makes us sound like we're some evil schemers over here. But
yeah. Well, I got to tell you about you guys. Now, you got off to that 3-0 start against the Twins.
Yeah.
And I know expectations were not high for you this year.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, you got to, and I texted you. I said, man, I am not, because I saw that 3-game series. And I'm like, the Cardinals, again, you never can count them out. I know it's been tough sliding as of late, though.
Yeah, it's road woes have been the real issue, but it's also kind of the way that this franchise has put this year together. Talking about maintaining success over the years, when we saw the end of the Yachty, Pujols, and Wainwright era just end with a whimper in those playoffs in 2022, they fall apart and go to last place in 23. Last year, they were more competitive and ended up with an above 500 record. But, this offseason, ownership slashes the payroll, says we're cutting payroll, we're going down, dropped about $40 million, and then said that they're going to, they're going to live and die with the young talent, which is something that the Brewers have been able to do. You guys have developed some pretty good talent, some young talent, and they've done quite well for the Brewers. And I think the Cardinals are like, well, we want to do that. We want to try to give our guys a chance to, lead us into this next era of Cardinal baseball. We're not going to go out and sign a bunch of expensive free agents and just kind of patchwork this thing. We're going to try to do it in a more sustainable way. And so far, the issue really has been that a lot of that talent hasn't lived up to expectations yet, which has taken its toll on the fan base, on the attendance, because it's really sad to see Busch Stadium at half capacity, Chuck. Over the years, we pride ourselves on, like, we are the fan base. It always comes out 3 million fans every year. We're competing with the Dodgers and the Yankees, much bigger cities, for attendance records. And it is nothing like that right now. It's really sad. I find myself sometimes, Chuck, this is sad. You ready to hear this? I will go onto YouTube and watch old videos of games from like the 90s and the 2000s. Some of those years with McGuire when the home run chase was going on, or the years with, Edmonds and Pujols and Roland and all those guys together, and how electric the home games would be and what the crowds were like. And I mean, now you're watching a telecast and you can hear like full-on conversations from people below the press box. And then, like I mentioned, to add to the depression of it all, they're losing. They're 10-15 overall, 2-11 on the road, and people are just not coming out to watch this team. And they're saying they're not going to do it until ownership, at least in their eyes, puts forth the effort to improve this team and try to win, which is something that they don't seem all that interested in doing for this particular year. They want to win. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they're like, let's lose. Let's tank this whole thing. That's not what they're trying to do, but they're not willing to make the investment to try and go get wins now. The focus has turned to rebuilding. the player development portion of their franchise, which had fallen well below the times in a major way compared to the rest of the league. They're moving on from John Mozeliak at the end of the year, and they're going to let Chaim Bloom take over to lead this new regime. But this year has become essentially, to a lot of fans, meaningless, which is really leaving a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths because they're not competing for a division title, let alone a world championship, which is, it's the bar. That's what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Well,
You're not supposed to take a year off just to do it. You're supposed to be competing each and every year, and they're not going to. And it's really been a tough pill for the fans to swallow. And they're voicing that opinion and displeasure by just not coming to games. So I'm hopeful that some of your Brewers fans will make the trek south and come down to St. Louis, fill out some of these red seats so it doesn't look so empty over this weekend. But we will get into what
Get on the Gametime app.
Get on the Gametime. Plenty of seats are available, Chuck. I can promise you that. And they'll get cheaper as we get closer to game time. We're going to talk about the good and the bad of each team, like what has been the downfall for both teams. Chuck mentioned starting pitching's been good for the Brewers. Well, what's going on? Why are they at 500? Things haven't been so bad for the Cardinals offensively yet. They're 5 games under 500. So something's up. We'll talk about it all coming up next on this crossover episode of Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Bet you didn't know that. Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console is required. That's right. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports, College Football, and Madden, who just announced both of their release dates coming out this summer, in case you didn't see that. Or maybe you're more of a Call of Duty Black Ops 6 type of person or an Avowed type of person. Bottom line is that you can jump into these games as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Latest technology for elevated playing to give you smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning-fast speeds that you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services. Top names like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and a whole lot more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Thanks again for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers your first listen every day. Your feedback is always welcome and encouraged on our YouTube page as well as on Twitter and X. So what's been going right and what's been going wrong with each team so far this year? We're going to start with the Brewers, Chuck. Good or bad? The floor is yours. You kind of mentioned that starting pitching's been pretty good for the Brewers. What else you got for us?
Well, the pitching, they've got several players who they're counting on to be frontline starters who are on the injured list, but other guys have stepped up and have provided a pretty good starts for these guys. Tobias Myers returned on Thursday, so start, walk some guys and all that. Yeah, the starting pitching has been pretty good. And up until this week, the decision-making has been pretty good. The base stealing, the defense and all that, not bad. But lately, it is what has not been good. Actually, what's not been good the whole season is the left side of the infield. Namely, JD, shortstop. Ortiz moved over to shortstop when they lost Adames to San Francisco. And Ortiz has been one of the worst hitters in Major League Baseball right now. They got him, Ortiz, in the Corbin Burns deal a couple of seasons ago in the offseason. And he's not been very good at shortstop. And at third base, the Brewers did nothing to solve the third base spot during the offseason. They got Caleb Durbin in the Devin Williams trade. And Durbin, a prospect with the Yanks, has been pretty good so far. So far, he's been in the starting lineup about a week now. And Murphy said, "You're my everyday third baseman," because the platoon situation of Capra and Oliver Dunn had been just brutal at third base. So I'm hoping that there's going to be some more production over at third base, but so far the left side of that infield They give no power. There's no power, and that's been a problem, and very little production. With all that said, and the injuries that they've had, the starting pitching, still kind of amazing, despite the 0-4 start, that they've climbed to 13-13. But after dropping 3 or 4 to the Giants, we'll see where they go when they go to St. Louis coming up Friday night.
Yeah, it was because until this past series, things were going quite well for you guys. Like you mentioned, after that Yankees series, which was crazy, right? Like whatever was going on, I don't know if we're blaming bats or whatever. It was just one of those like, holy crap, the Yankees came out hot.
Sure.
And the Brewers are just like, okay, or very early. We're not going to be like this the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys righted the ship a little bit. And then, tough going in San Francisco where, the Giants have been a good team so far this year, which I think has surprised some people so far. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the Angels. The Angels have been a surprise team that have been beating some capable teams thus far. What's the bullpen like with you guys? Moving on from Devin Williams, things still is locked down as ever at the end of the bullpen, or are they still trying to figure things out?
Yeah, McGill takes over the closer spot. Abner Uribe was not good on Thursday, although he had been pretty good. And some other guys out there doing a nice job in the bullpen. They just called up one of their top pitching prospects, Craig Yoho, to fill out the bullpen. I'm satisfied with the bullpen. They have Piamps, who has not been good in 3 outings this year, and I'm not saying good. He's given a couple of those 3 outings, he gave 4, 5, 6 runs, just been bad. So the bullpen, I'm still okay with it. They've covered up for the loss of Devin Williams, especially Williams has been terrible in New York. So, I think right now the Brewers are what they are. We'll find out very soon here which direction they're going to go. I said before the season, JD, that this team, I don't think they were capable of winning 90 games, but they're capable of winning mid-80s and still winning the division. I still think they're the best team in the division. The Cubs are going to be a problem, though, to catch. They're 3 games behind the Cubs. What about you guys? Like I said, you got off to that 3-0 start, then you lost that first game against the Angels, and you played a couple of tough teams since then. The Mets, the Mets are just on a roll. You won that one game in Atlanta the other night, 10-4, but they beat you in a series as well.
Yeah, it was, the Angels one was a series that you were upset with because you lost a couple of games there that you really probably should have won, but you end up losing them in extra innings. You lose that game that Fetty was throwing a no-no through 6 innings to the Pirates in extra innings. There's been some games where they certainly were right there winning. Outside of the disaster that was the game in Boston on Sunday Night Baseball, which was just a pathetic showing all around. Like, that was just embarrassing. Outside of that game, most of these games have been tight and have been competitive. I'm not going to say that the Cardinals have just been a team that the teams can roll over on, and that they're just, they come in, they beat us, and then move on with their lives. I mean, like you said, we played some tough teams. Mm-hmm. The Angels caught them a little off guard by winning 2 out of 3 there. Boston sweeps them. The Mets look like the best team in the National League, even better than the Dodgers right now, like the way they're playing ball. I mean, they just swept them. So you have that going on. So you got a hot team there. Atlanta, after their cold start, they were a hot team. You're able to get, as you mentioned, the 1 win there, but they've been playing much, much better over the last week or so. But you were able to beat the Phillies, and that was in the Astros. You took 2 of 3 from both of those. Mm-hmm. Again, those were home games, though, where the team has been much better. On the road is where they have struggled a lot, and a lot of that has to do with the bullpen. So the bullpen has just not been good. They've got some of the worst numbers in the league. They're bottom 5 in the ERA, bottom 10 in batting average against. They've got 8 losses already attributed to the bullpen, 2 relievers, which is tied for the most in baseball. And although it's not all of them, like they haven't all just been bad, but as well as I do, you can't just throw the same 3 guys out there every day because they'll be dead by June. You won't have any arms left. So those other relievers, they got to step up and do their jobs. And it sinks the whole pen when 2 or 3 guys just aren't giving you what you need. Mm-hmm. And that's usually how these games have been lost, where the Cardinals are either within scoring distance, like 1 run, or they're tied, or they might even have a lead, and then it just evaporates over the 7th and 8th innings before we can even get to Ryan Helsley, the closer. So that's been a problem, is how does Ollie connect the dots to go from the starting rotation, which overall hasn't been too bad, honestly. You got Eric Fetty, 3.33 ERA. Sonny Gray's at 3.41. Matthew Liberatore at 3.60. Palante's just over 4 at 4.05. You got Michaelis at 5.7. Thanks to that one really bad game in Boston that we don't try to talk about too much.
You got
Steven Matz, because they've gone to a 6-man rotation right now because of how many games they're playing over the next couple weeks. His ERA is at 1.86. And if I told you and I told fans and gave you those numbers, that's what the starting rotations numbers are going to be at the end of April, you probably wouldn't complain. You would think this team was doing all right. And then offensively, they're second in team batting average in Major League Baseball, 264, behind only the Cubs. They're fifth in OBP in the league. They're sixth in slugging, fifth in OPS. Again, if I told you this and I gave you those starting rotation numbers and then I gave you those offensive numbers, I don't think a lot of fans would complain. You'd be like, oh, all right, so we're doing okay. And then you look up and you're 10-15, and it's really been the bullpen. Ollie can't seem to push the right buttons. And I'm not blaming Ollie, and I know a lot of fans are upset with him and think he's a terrible manager, and that's fine if you want to think that. But, Chuck, if you've got 7 bullets in a gun and 5 of them are duds, what are you supposed to do? It makes it really difficult for any manager.
Well, but the thing about it is, you knew going into this season that it was going to be, if you want to call it like a throwaway season, it was going to be one of those that you talked about, a rebuilding season. So we knew this was going to happen with the Cardinals. Even that said, though, I don't like the fact that the Brewers are going into St. Louis and St. Louis is not playing well, because the Cardinals are still the Cardinals and it's a divisional rivalry. Okay. Divisional game. So I don't say, I'd be delirious if the Brewers can go in there and take 2 or 3 and play some good baseball. I'm not expecting to go in there and sweeping. Brewers aren't good enough to be like that. They're not the Dodgers. They're not the Yankees. So I do not like the fact that we're catching the Cardinals when they're not playing very well, because that could turn around in an instant.
And here's the thing. It's not that they're really playing that bad. Like the sweep in New York with the Mets, where they lost 4 straight, which they hadn't done since 1986. But it's been pointed out to me multiple times. How many times do you play 4-game series against guys anymore? Which is true. But at the same time, they were close games. It wasn't like the Mets just bashed them to death, but they beat them because they're a better team. Atlanta, wins this last game 4-1, and it was a tight game until the 7th, 8th inning. So it's not like they're getting clobbered by teams. They're just like one guy away, and it's like they go to one guy. And the hard part about it too, Chuck, is I want to mention this too. So last year when the Cardinals did win 83 games, one of the main reasons why they did win that many was because the bullpen was good, and they didn't have that much turnover into this year. They were like, okay, we should be okay here, right? They moved on from your boy Andrew Kittredge, but brought in Phil Maton instead, and everybody's going to be fine, right? And it's been weird that guys like Ryan Fernandez, who was very good last year, Rule 5 pick last year that they had to keep on the roster, has been abysmal this year. Like, he's just getting clobbered. His ERA is over 11. Jojo Romero has been nowhere near as good as he was last year. And those are 2 of the big pieces that they were supposed to be 7th, 8th inning guys. They're supposed to be that bridge to get you to Helsley. And if those guys come in, it just seems like it falls apart each time for the Cardinals right now. And they don't have anybody in the minors to bring up that they're willing to, say like, well, we'll give these guys a chance. No, these are the guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ollie's exact words were, these are the guys. And we just got to work through it. We got to figure it out. So that's kind of, I think, might be a key to this series, because it has been for every series they've lost so far, is if you can get through the rotation and get to that bullpen, if you can, burn them out by inning 6, you have a kind of a good chance to beat the Cardinals right now, because they don't know what to do to get to Ryan Helsley at the end of a game to close it out.
Well, the Brewers are kind of in the same situation with when I was talking about the left side of the infield. Those are the guys.
Yeah.
As much as you can complain about them, they're not nobody's trading their third baseman. We're not going to get Ryan McMahon from Colorado or anybody else. Nobody's trading their guys at this point and sending a message to their fan base. We're out of the race.
Yeah.
Well, the Brewers, as Ortiz is struggling, you're going to turn to Andrew Monasterio, who's actually hitting pretty well down in AAA, but no, you're not going to do that. So these guys can go out there and keep playing. They're going to be in the lineup every game because there's nobody else to turn to. It's kind of a tough position to be in. There's no competition there.
I gotcha. Well, we're going to get into these rotations. We've got pitching matchups. We're going to let you know who's going up against who the scheduled starters are, and then we'll give you our picks to click for this series. Who are going to lead our teams to victory? We'll have that for you coming up next on this Locked On Cardinals, Locked On Brewers crossover episode. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. JD Hafron from Locked On Cardinals, Chuck Freimund from Locked On Brewers. Pitching matchups in this one, a couple of names that maybe Cardinal fans are not all that familiar with. Chad Patrick will be on the mound for the Brewers on Friday night against Matthew Liberatore. What can you tell me about Chad Patrick?
He's the guy the Brewers got from the A's last year, and they put him in the farm system. And last year, with 14-1 down in the minor leagues, AAA. He was great, yeah, he was fantastic. So they called him up because they needed someone. They needed starting pitching. So he did not make the spring training roster, or he did not make the opening day roster, but he was on the spring training roster. So they called him up, and he's been real good in all four of his starts so far. 4 of his starts been really, really good. So we'll see. He's yet to have really a clunker in any of his outings so far. So that's his book on him. Strong pitcher so far, and looks like a guy who belongs in the major league level. What about your guy?
Is he a power pitcher? Like, what kind of pitcher is he?
Mixes it up. He's got the slider, change up. He's got a few different pitches. He's not overpowering by any means.
He's not coming in throwing 102 is what you're telling me. The Brewers
don't have anybody that's in their starting rotation, unfortunately, like that. But
Matthew Liberatore for the Cardinals side of things on Friday night. Left-hander, he was part of the Randy Arozarena trade with the Tampa Bay Rays a few years ago, and Randy Arozarena went on to become the god of baseball for a couple years, and specifically in the postseason. Libby, it's been a little while to get him to find his niche. They had him in the pen last year for most of the year where he was very successful at the back end. That's one of the things that's missing a little bit from the bullpen this year is he was a guy that you could bring in, would struggle against righties, but lefties, he was completely dominant, and he's become a starter this year. And early on, he was still having some trouble figuring out how to get the right-handers out. He's still, much tougher against lefties than righties, but he's been pretty darn good over his last couple of starts. 25 years old. He's a good young arm. So usually has maybe like one inning where he's just kind of like, and then most of the rest of the time, it's pretty solid so far. So we've been pretty pleased. Quinn Priester against Sonny Gray on Saturday afternoon. Sonny Gray, don't really have to tell you much about him. We've seen him with a number of different teams, Minnesota, the Cincinnati Reds, the A's, the Yankees. Quinn Priester, though, I remember him being in Pittsburgh's farm system. How'd he end up in Milwaukee, and how's he been for you guys?
Who's that? I missed that. It skipped a second.
Quinn Priester.
Oh, Quinn Priester.
Your starter on Saturday.
Quinn, they got it from the Red Sox when they really needed pitching help early in the season. And Priester has been, well, he wasn't very good in his last start, but real good in his first 2 starts with Milwaukee. And the Brewers, I thought, gave up too much for him. They gave up one of their top prospects, 18-year-old kid who I think has got a great potential, compensatory first-round pick, and it's just some cash. And just I didn't like what they gave away for him. So far, he's been pretty good, and he's going to be in the rotation. We'll see how long he hangs in the rotation. That's up to him. But the Brewers are going to have several players coming off the injured list very soon. Maybe Brandon Woodruff as well. They just got Elias Myers back, but Priester's been good. He's been real good, except for his last start. But he's had 3 good outings in a row, or 3 outings in a row. 2 good. This last one, not so much.
Okay. Sunday, another afternoon game. It'll be Eric Fetty who the Cardinals acquired from the White Sox last year, part of the 3-team trade that sent Tommy Edman to the Dodgers, where once again, a former Cardinal becomes a god in the postseason and goes crazy, and he's having an excellent season so far. So Cardinal fans are still not all that happy with that particular trade, although Eric Fetty has not pitched all that bad this year. He's been pretty good. And in fact, he's been excellent, but the bullpen tends to blow the games that he ends up starting. Former Cardinal Jose Quintana set to start for the Brewers on Sunday. How's he fitting in? Because I was extremely upset when I saw that he signed with the Brewers, because that's exactly where I didn't want him to be. I didn't want him in the division. I got a lot of respect for Q, and I think he's a really good pitcher and he's got a lot to offer. How's he been so far for you guys?
He's just been fantastic. In fact,
I hate that.
He's 3-0. He's come in and won his first 3 games with the Brewers so far. Pitcher, and you know that he's played with everybody. And I don't think the Brewers will be his last team either. But the Brewers got him really cheap. 1 year, $4.5 million. And already he's earned that. And I just, on my podcast the other day, Locked On Brewers, I was talking about all the money that all these other teams spent on guys. And so far, they would all love to have Jose Quintana, who the Brewers didn't get until spring training. But he's been very good so far. Classic Quintana, veteran pitcher, mid-30s, and 3-0. He's the first Brewer to be 3-0, win his first 3 starts with the team since CC Sabathia came here in 2007. So that's a pretty good comparison. It's been 18 years since somebody has won their first 3 starts as a Brewer.
When the Cardinals let Quintana walk after that 2022 season, I didn't even understand. I was like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, what is this guy? He's not expensive. You just had him starting game 1 in your division, in your wild card series against the Phillies. That's how good he was after you acquired him, and you just let him walk away. You just were like, we're fine. It's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable.
The Mets did the same thing. The Mets pitched Quintana against the Brewers in the wild card. They just let him walk. They paid Minaya, and they're not getting anything out of there. They paid him $35 million, and they had no interest in re-signing Quintana.
Man, I was supremely bummed when he got away, and then I just became angry when I was like, dang, those Brewers, they're so smart. Got a guy that is going to be good for him as long as he's healthy. Came down
to their price. That's the reason why he's here.
Yeah. Well, what did you say? $4.5 million is what they're paying him this year? Yeah. We're paying Miles Michaelis $17.5 million. It's ridiculous. Yep. It's dumb. I don't understand it. I never will. But whatever, I'm moving on. All right, picks to click for this series. Who's the one hitter you got on your mind this series that you think is going to go wild against the St. Louis Cardinals?
Brewer fans aren't going to like this because they're down on him right now, but I think Christian Yelich.
Are they mad at him because he dropped that fly ball and left?
Well, he not only did he drop a dominant fly ball, but he's hitting. He had the back surgery last year, and he's showing signs from time to time. He had a grand slam the other night, but he's a guy I'm going to say is going to have a big series against St. Louis. And watch, he's going to go 0 for 12. But
I hope he does too. I hope he does, Chuck. I hope he's terrible.
What do you like?
Let's see here. Let's see. You got 2 righties starting. You got a lefty on Sunday. Give me, who's been warming up? I'm going to tell you. Give me your catcher's older brother, Wilson Contreras, in this series, okay? Horrible start to this year. Amazing spring. Horrible start. Starting to turn things around a little bit. He's also a guy that switched to that torpedo bat after a couple of bad weeks of hitting. And I just saw him on Thursday night at the St. Louis Blues game, which they whooped the Winnipeg Jets. He was there in a Blues jersey. Got a standing ovation on the Jumbotron. He's feeling good. He's got the good vibes going. Give me some Wilson Contreras, teaching your little baby Contreras catcher a lesson or two about hitting in this series, which means that your catcher will go off and mine will go over 15.
I always tell my listeners, I say, man, whatever I like, take the opposite.
Yeah, it seems to work out that way all the time, doesn't it? All right, well, let's wrap it up, Chuck. Thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers your first listen every day if you haven't already. Make sure you guys give us a follow on X. Chuck, what's your handle on X? Just Chuck Freimund, right?
Freimund, Freimund. Find us on Google, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. #1 Brewer podcast on the internet, because the great Brewer fans out there, and you guys are destroying it in St. Louis as well, JD.
Amen, brother. Like, subscribe to both our channels on YouTube. Help our channels grow. The more of you, the more episodes come and the more fun we have. So find us on Instagram and TikTok as well. Enjoy the series. I'm sure Chuck will talk again post-series to discuss all that went down over this weekend at Busch Stadium.